everyone. Thank you for having me this morning. My name is Dr. Kenneth Wanwa Ohei, and my project host is Dr. Rolene Brink. We both from the Applied Information Systems College of Business and Education, University of Johannesburg. I'm going to be presenting to you today a virtual presentation to London International Conference on Education. I would not want to waste time, but I would want to take you through to the presentation structure. I have structured them in the form of introductions, where I'm going to talk about the background and context of the presentation, discussions of important issues, research objectives in alignment with the research question. I'm going to also talk about the proposed conceptual framework. I'm going to go further to discuss those framework that I'm going to present to you, and also I am going to talk about the research methodology, wherefore I am going to use the top level strategy. I'm going to use a mixed method approach, and then also take you through the data analysis, where I'm going to use your Atlas TI, your statistical analytical tools for coding thematic evidence, identifying the themes, and therefore I am going to draw my conclusion. I'm going to take you through to the context of this study. The adoption of social software, however, is progressively being used worldwide across several universities to support teaching and learning. This is also evidence from other scholars who have mentioned that social software tools, specifically the likes of your blogs, Wikipedias, and social media, podcasting, social networking sites, and many more, have gained strong educational awareness, and most universities are beginning to adopt such a platform in their teachings and learning. Therefore, the arrival of Web 2.0, Web 3.0 has given us that opportunity, such that is a turning point in a pedagogical context of how our digital native, that the learned students could benefit from a whole range of educational softwares. This will mean that students are able to choose when they learn, how they learn, and when they want to learn. It gives them the affordance and many more options on how to go along with these facilities in terms of social software technological tools in education. Although there are issues that revolves around it that may also want to deter the approaches on how to apply this type of tools into our systems, such as your securities. We're also going to speak about the ICT facilities, educators not being able to fully incorporate these tools or ICT skills and knowledge to bridge these gaps from students to be able to accept these technologies and use them adequately in their teaching and learning. So that becomes a problem, and it also leads us to important issues. Wherefore, developing and training educator in the educational sector in the use of social software tools seems to be a key element in every development plan for educators, for education and educational reform efforts. This is why most university institutes are faced with several challenges emerging from ICT web instructional technologies usage confronting universities today. Therefore, the issues with educators' inability to successfully incorporate or use this web instructional technologies, the likes of your blogs, wiki, RSS feeds, your YouTubes, Flickrs, name them, your Facebooks, Twitters, Skypes, and podcasts, to mention but a few, in their teaching and learning remains a big challenge in our universities today. Therefore, we also look at the challenges that may arise from the security issues in terms of privacy, ethical and legal issues, whether these technologies are being used for what it is intended for. Maybe it's being misused or abused or exploited by the students, or using them from a different agenda as opposed to the teaching and learning aspect of it. We're also going to look at into factors that may affect the usage of this technological softwares or tools in educational systems, such as your human behavioral patterns, where we talk about maybe they have phobia, maybe they have attitudes, perceptions, or beliefs and culture that may hinder them from using or not willing to accept change. With this drastic transformation of information communication technologies that we've always seen these days. Now, those can also be a problem. Not want to be able to adapt these tools successfully. This brings us about where we talk about the research questions that we have raised to see how we can better address these questions. Now, what is going to happen in our study is that we are going to develop themes based on the research questions, answering the research questions. So during the time of data collections, we are going to develop about 5 themes which have given a brief shot. You can see from the presentation that we have team 1, which is responsible in providing answers to the first research questions. Remember, we're going to use the mixed method approach, where for interview and questionnaire will be applied. So the theme 1, which speaks about social software and ICT web technologies adoption in higher education, will focus on answering the question of the first research questions, which talks about should Web 2.0 and 3.0 technologies be adopted to serve as additional tools that will help improve our teaching, learning, and quality of education delivery. We're also going to look at theme 2, which talked about the perceptions of students and educators in the use of this social software tools and ICT technologies in education, which is responsible in providing answer to our second research question: what are the views of educators and students regarding Web 2.0, Web 3.0 technologies, and the benefits that is thereof when with the uses of these technologies. Then our theme 3 also going to focus on the social software and ICT technology usage, wherefore it addresses or will be addressing the third research question: what are the extents of educators and students ICT confident level, their willingness, their competencies, and readiness to use these technological tools in higher education system. We are going to questions which is also aligned with the objectives as well. The fourth one deals with the controversies, challenges of adapting these tools. It also focuses on providing an answer to the fourth research question: what challenges do students and educators experience during the adoption of this Web 2.0 and Web 3.0 technology? Then the final approach, which we also going to look into, is also Team 5, which talks about educators and students development and support strategy, which is responsible in providing the research questions to the fifth research questions: what support system will educators and students require to prepare them to use Web 2.3 and Web 2.0 technologies in higher education? I'm going to take you through to a conceptual framework where we have proposed a conceptual framework that will help support the literature. We all know that through a framework, guiding principles can be established concerning the concept that is under investigation. A framework can also be seen or viewed as a roadmap which offers a coherent to a pragmatic inquiry in a research topic. Now, this proposed diagram that we speak of, which I'm going to explain to you as the presentation progresses, it's represented below. It's purported to assist several users, be it your students, your educators, and also the administrator or the university as well. It is an administrative platform to direct and support them in achieving their precise goals. Most importantly, this same framework, it embodies the new cohort that thrives in enhancing and improving business processes. The nature of service delivery through the uses of these web technologies in higher education systems. To this framework, you can see that the proposed diagrammatic framework relates to four precise components governing the institutional transition, and is also systematically exemplified by a tree structure, which you can see from the diagram below. Now I'm going to explain through to them, but I'll go bit by bit to explain every aspect for your understanding. The first aspect illustrates the conditions for transitioning and addresses the expected educational impact, which you can see from there. We have the educational impact, we have the tutoring agent impact, we also look at the controversies, and we're also going to look at investment, the effects in terms of your cost, benefits, risk, and flexibility. While the second deals with the significance and the facilitations of learning through tutoring agent, just as I was saying, and the third and the fourth aspect deals with the controversial issues of social software and ICT tools adoption and investment and its effects. In our next slide, I'm going to aspect of this components that we identified, the four components. We've often seen that from the semantic web-based educational system, which is the proposed framework, we have seen that educational impact, which talks about the informed quality. We also seen that it's an innovation and collaboration. This is what is going to bring the impact that it brings in the educational aspect of it. We're also going to see that it's content driven. We also see that it's transformational and sustainability. If I have to take you back through the Web 2.0, Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and Web 3.0, there is a transition that takes place. In the days when we have the Web 1.0, we only often call this approach the read alone, wherefore you're not able to edit the contents, you're not able to personalize the contents in the educational contents, in terms of if you're using this social softwares for your educational purposes, such as your blogging and the discussion forums. Some of this you don't have such approaches when using the Web 1.0. Now the emergence of 2.0 and 3.0 gives us that platform, gives us that approach where we are able to incorporate these tools successfully for our educational goals. And this is just a diagram to show you how they have transgressed from Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and a Web 3.0, a more sophisticated approach, as you can see from the diagram. Again, to the other aspect, the learning approaches using Web 3.0, Web 2.0 for educational purposes. It can also serve as the tutoring agent impact. These are the impact that it will bring from the sixth component that you can see here. We have your virtual 3D, which talks about your wiki, podcast, vodcast. We also see your semantic digital libraries, intelligent tutoring system. We also see semantic blogging and social networking, and many more. Now, all of this together will give you or yield to a knowledge creation management, collaborative learning, where students are able to collaborate with one another, and so forth and so on. We also look at the content personalization, just as I was trying to explain, based on the Web 1.0 and the Web 2.0 and 3.0. You are able to do content personalizations. You edit or modify to the way you want it and how you want to. We also look at it also encourages integrated learning, pervasive interaction, and autonomous agents. It also gives easy access to an enthusiastic learning, or this is some of the attributes and impact that it will bring when it's adopted correctly. We also see that it's going to also increase the theories of behavioralism cognitivism, constructivism, and connectivism. It advances these learning theories. And then we the other, the fourth aspect which we have identified in the framework, and then we could see that there are controversies and challenges that may also hinder this adoption of social software, where I have highlighted security issues in terms of your privacy, intellectual property rights, who is the owner, who is the author of the content, who took it from who and whatnot, privacies, maybe violations, misuses, and the rest of them. We look at ethical and legal issues, misuses, abuses, or exploitations, maybe bullying someone using such platform, using it for what is not intended for, and so many other factors might also be a challenge in terms of the ethical and legal issues. We are also looking into the human factor in terms of your behavioral patterns, technophobia, phobia, beliefs, perceptions of use, whether they are ready or not ready to use such an approach, are they willing for change, and the rest of them. We also look at the ICT infrastructure when they are not provided with the facilities to carry out these technologies or use them. It also might deter the adoption of these social software tools. Before I go much further, I also want to link you to the approaches, because this is just a proposed framework which we are going to use to understand what it means for a methodological concept towards a framework development for social software tools adoption in higher educational system. We are also going to look into what method are we going to use, what data is required, what method will be used to collect and analyze this data, how all of this will answer the research questions. Now, we have seen from the diagram here that we have said that the study is a mixed method, which is a pragmatic in terms of the philosophical concept or paradigm or philosophy or whatever you call it, this is just a pragmatism approach, wherefore you use the mixed method, the quantitative and the qualitative approach. You can see from the diagram that the first approach will be the research that will be adopted is a qualitative, and the second approach is with a quantitative. Altogether, we are going to use a structured interview uh, directed to educators and IT staffs, and from the other end, we are going to use questionnaires directed to students to the selected universities, and also from the IT departments from the selected universities. And altogether, we are going to also do qualitative data collection. We are also going to do or quantitative data analysis, and on the other end to quantitative data analysis and quantitative data analysis. Therefore, we are going to merge them together. One will serve as an embedded or nested approach, wherefore it will support the findings of the other methodology, and therefore we will consolidate them and to yield results or interpret the data from experts. And therefore, once this data has been collected from participants and from participants and respondents, therefore we are going to go through using different approaches, which we are going to use your Atlas TI, as I've just explained from the previous diagram, whereby we are going to capture the data, we are going to do the coding analysis, we are going to generate categories and the properties of these categories, as well as identifying the main themes that will take effect. Therefore, we know that we are going to use thematic analysis, which is usually common for a qualitative data analysis, which forms parts in connecting two or more themes that are essentially a narrating of the context. As a matter of fact, data will be gathered from respective interviews, such as I've explained, and they will be transcribed and analyzed and into desirable formats using the qualitative data analysis tools. This is just the process that takes place. We're going to do your reading. We're going to do, that is after you have captured the interviews, we are going to use them into transcribe them, preparing them, and then reading them through to generate sense from the information. Therefore, we are going to code them using Atlas TI, whichever version that we choose to use, and then we are going to identify the themes and concepts, then generate descriptions of settings and connecting the themes of to the interviews and the rest of them, and then we'll have a meaningful interpretations of the themes and descriptions. Overview of what I was just explaining from the diagram. This is the processes that will take effect from the study, and then yeah, we have the conclusion. We've seen that we have laid the foundation upon which the study is based, preparing the introductions of the background. We have talked about the background, we talked about the importance issues, we also have identified the research objectives and so many more, and then we have also presented the research designs methods that offers a clear discussions of the research processes and how all this will work together in providing answers to the research question. Then a detailed discussion on a proposed conceptual framework. Due to time frame, I am not able to go much into details to explain how the conceptual framework, the proposed framework that was proposed, it's probably going to work out to a point where we generate the comprehensive framework that will serve for the adoption. Has been collected, as I was just explaining. A comprehensive framework for social software adoption will be developed once the data has been captured, collected from the participants and the respondents, analyzed and had gone through the coding processes and interpretation. Therefore, we'll combine all the responses from the interview and from the participants. All together will be joined together to yield to a comprehensive development of a framework that will serve for social software adoption in higher educational system. Thank you very much, and thank you for listening. Thank you for this opportunity, and I appreciate uh, your time. Uh, this is Thank you so much. And should you have any questions, my details are made available. Please do not hesitate to inform me. Send me an email, and then we can take it up from there. Thank you, and all the best with the presentations and the co-presenters that will be presenting over there. Best of luck. Thank you, and bye.